What is up, you guys? Welcome back to another edition of the podcast. My name is Ramon, and this is Dad's podcast project. And today I wanted to talk about the change in schedules that we experience as parents, and how you have to be, I guess, willing to understand that these things happen on a regular. Nothing is really truly set in stone once you have a family. Things are constantly changing. Schedules get rearranged. Every which thing that you can possibly think of planning sometimes doesn't always go according to that plan. And so, case in point today, people are probably going to wonder about the podcast because I was promoting that I was going to have two guests on today from Mom Gang podcast to come on and to just talk a little bit about their show, who it is they are, what it is they do, and plans just change. There was something that had come up with one of them and their children, and it's totally understandable. There's nothing that we can do about this kind of stuff. Trying to reschedule and trying to do things like, even on my end, just trying to push out the time a little bit later. I mean, I have plans with my son later this afternoon, and so it's kind of interesting, like how honed in or how, I guess, segmented our days can be once we are parents, as opposed to when we were before we had kids. Anything that came up, anything that we wanted to do, we just went and we just did it. There was no real like maybe I'm tired and I don't want to do something, or maybe in another type of realm, it's like, oh well, I guess I just don't have the time to do this because I have maybe work. Work was probably the only thing that would come up as a deterrent, or as a something that would change your plans, or I guess augment your schedule in any way, shape, or form. And including kids in the mix, it's all that stuff I learned very quickly went right out the window. And I became very understanding of people who were parents and why they maybe couldn't come out, or why they maybe couldn't come over, for instance. I didn't really understand that before having children, but as I stated earlier, now that I have children, I completely understand. It's not even a question anymore. Someone can just simply say, I gotta go. And if they're a parent, that's enough said. It's not like, what, why? I think that I actually experienced this at the Super Bowl this past weekend, was it? No, 2 weekends ago. I don't even remember, but I had gone to see the Super Bowl at a friend's house, and there were, a lot of his buddies were over, and 5 minutes left in the game, I just said, all right, you guys, I got to go. And it was like, what? There's literally 5 minutes left in the game. You cannot stay for 5 minutes. And sometimes you get that text message and you just have to get in your car and you've got to go. There's no questions about it. The time that I would need to spend explaining myself is too much time spent. I needed to be gone, and I needed to get to my kids. So, parents understand. I think that for my buddy, he's going to be learning very quickly because his son will be arriving very shortly. I want to say in a month or two, his son will be here. So this will be his first child. And I think that when it comes down to, oh, do you remember that time at the Super Bowl when you said there's only 5 minutes left? Maybe then he'll understand that, sometimes we don't have that 5 minutes to spare. But either way, it's me today. I'm live on IG if you guys are watching, and this video is not live on YouTube. However, I am incorporating some video. So if you guys are interested in consuming this in video format, you can head over to Dad's Podcast Project on YouTube. Feel free to subscribe, leave a thumbs up. And yeah, that's pretty much what we've got going on right there. So to kind of talk about one of the things that I feel has been coming up throughout the week, or maybe the weeks. It's been on my social media. It's been on Reddit, just all of these kind of, well, before I get into that topic, it's a little bit of a deeper topic, a little bit of a hot button topic. Excuse me. I did want to talk about discipline really quickly. And one of the disciplinary methods that might come into question for some of you as parents. I don't know if any of you guys do this. I know that, my wife and I, we have been guilty of doing this ourselves. But there was a Reddit post, and it was in the our shower thoughts of telling your kids that they'll call the police or the police are going to come arrest them or whatever it is they're doing. If your child is misbehaving, as a parent, telling them that the police are going to get involved and they're going to get in trouble. And what is that really building foundation wise with your children and maybe their thoughts or their feelings towards law enforcement? I don't know if there's a study that's being done out there or has been done, but I think that when it comes to discipline and when it comes to reprimanding or really trying to child rear or rein your child in or wrangle them in, rein them in, one of the two, you kind of have to give consequences that are realistic. And I think that saying that because they won't settle down in the car, the police are going to come and have a talking with them is something that's very unrealistic, unless maybe one of your family members or your friends is in law enforcement and they want to go through that whole setup and role play. But at the end of the day, I think that for me, I like to teach my children that there are certain things that are against the law. Like, for example, my son, he enjoys having his window rolled down while we're driving. And I have to be very, very clear that nothing is to be put outside of that window. So before I do this, I usually make sure there's no toys back there or papers or anything that he can get his hands on and try to throw out the window, because that would be very dangerous. That would be extremely dangerous. And if he did have anything, I wouldn't even gamble it. I wouldn't even roll down the window. But on occasion where he's had nothing back there, I have rolled down the window. And I've told him that nothing can go out there. He wants to put his fingers out so he can feel the wind. That's fine, but mainly it's instilling the fact that there are certain rules higher than the rules set forth in the household, and these are laws that we must all abide by as American citizens or California residents. I'm not sure if the laws are different. Maybe you can toss stuff out in different states. I doubt it, but I can't speak to factual knowledge of that. But just that it's something that he wants to experience, and I get it. It's something new, and that's fine. We can do that. He also needs to learn that, this also isn't like a full-on experiment where you can see what happens when you do certain things. The experience is rolling the window down and feeling the rush of the wind or hearing the loud sound of the wind while we're driving. That is it. There's no seeing what happens when you throw something out. There's no seeing what happens when you fully extend your arm out. There's nothing, like none of that is to be done while in a car. And really trying to hammer down that lesson that nothing is to happen outside of that window. I feel like I'm even trying to hammer that lesson down on this podcast, but I digress. And there are certain rules that I set on myself. I don't roll the window down for him while we're driving on the freeway. It is only city driving, and even then it's like between stoplights, between stop signs. It's not on any roads that are above 25 miles per hour. And that's where I feel comfortable introducing him to that whole window can be down. And that's based on me knowing my son. I think that other parents, your children, if you have a child that is just super well behaved, they listen to the rules, and you can trust that window can be down on the freeway or wherever, or they can have games and toys or whatever it is in that back seat, and that nothing will happen. But I know my son, and I know that these are the rules that need to apply with him. So it is a disservice, I think, to the men and women in law enforcement to have maybe parents that want to use them as scapegoats. And I say that lightly because I do understand that in the media and in the news, There are outliers in law enforcement who do shine a very negative light on just police as a whole. There are a lot of police officers who are good at their jobs, who love what it is that they do, and it is unfortunate that there are those individuals who either take advantage of their position or are corrupt or just do things with which lose the trust of the public. And I think that, for one, I don't want my son to view them as that right out the gate. I want my son to have respect for those who are enforcing the law, as I do, and that because he is acting up or whatever the case may be, that it's not against the law for him to act wild, for him to want to be loud, or for him to want to toss toys around, or whatever it is he might be doing at the time. It's not. It would be a lie being said by me to tell him that would be the consequence that he would receive, is like being arrested or being talked to by a police officer in that way. And on that Reddit post, a lot of other people were saying that, it might build a foundation of distrust or a negative view towards people in law enforcement from a very young age, to where they don't trust police officers and they might not want to talk to police officers at all. And that kind of sets them up like in a bad way before they've even had the opportunity to present themselves as as good individuals. We don't think that way about firefighters. We don't think that way about doctors and nurses or anybody in like maybe the medical industry. Really, law enforcement, they do get a very short end of the stick. And it's one of the things that I don't want to do or encourage. So it was one of the things that I thought I would share with you guys. But man, my throat today. The other thing that I wanted to talk about, it's a hot button topic, and it, like I had said before, it's been popping up in my social media. It's come across in Reddit posts and just certain things like that. And it really came to a point with which I felt maybe I should talk about this, when a coworker of mine came up and asked me and another coworker, who are both fathers, what our thoughts are on this. And so the story goes that they have a friend whose daughter is 6 years old, I believe, and now wants to be a boy. And the question was, as fathers, where do we stand with this? I have a daughter. My other coworker, he only has a son. So it was really like maybe a question for me, but I'm neither here nor there on that. I do have a line, and that's only because of maybe poor education on the topic. The reason why I feel that this is such a hot button topic is also because there are individuals out there who are very anti-LGBTQ plus community members or people in that community. And if you're anti-LGBTQT plus, then I'll just save you the time and you can just stop listening right now. There's really nothing more for you to hear that will make you feel better about your position. So I'll give you the time to go ahead and turn it off. And with that, we'll go into how I feel about it. So I think that not wanting to be such an influence, like I want to be an influence, but I also don't want to be a huge influence on my children. And I guess with that position, I kind of am taking a stance, but I want my children to have the freedom to find who it is that they are in this life, whether it's with whatever career, level of education, or sexual orientation. All of those things I feel have to be treated equally. I can't say that, well, it's okay that you don't want to go to college, but it's not okay that you want to be maybe an automobile mechanic, for whatever reason. I mean, it's just a ridiculous analogy, but for whatever reason, I might feel that way. And the same thing with sexual orientation. It isn't my life to live. It's theirs. And I think that should be the conversation ender, but for some people it's not. For some people they want a little more. And my reasonings for that is that I think that too often we want to live our lives through our children and do the things that we may have missed out on. But not only that, we also want our children to be us in a way. And not only with this question, I might be all over the place with this only because I feel like I have a lot that I just want to get out there off of my mind or off of my chest, really. And one of the things was like my son was watching a show called Bubble Guppies on his iPad or his Kindle Play, whatever, Amazon tablet. And he had, in the episode, I think the boy Guppy was talking about ballet. And after the episode, he asked me, he said, "Daddy, can boys be ballerinas?" And this question can go a number of ways depending on whose house you grew up in, I guess. I imagine that there are fathers out there who would probably take a very hard stance in how I'll save the colorful language, but how maybe effeminate the thought might be, and that's just not even an option. Don't even think that. Don't even talk about that. I mean, whatever extreme you want to go to, I imagine that my son could have got a number of responses depending on who he asked. But I feel, and I'm biased, he's very fortunate that I'm his father because my answer was simple. Yes, boys can be ballerinas. Boys are ballerinas. There's no sexual discrimination in dance. Men and women dance. And whether they're doing it in tights or tutus or dancing salsa, bachata, tap, two-step, whatever the case may be, certain individuals want to deem ballet as maybe a little bit more effeminate because of the attire, the outfit. Or maybe there are people who prefer there are men who prefer the company of men that do ballet. Now, I would be hard pressed to think that maybe all of them do. I would imagine that maybe some of them just really enjoy ballet, but they're also into women. But again, that's not really my place, nor is it my need to know. Like it's not my, how do I put this? It's not my business, if that makes sense. It's no one's. And so I told him, yeah, boys can be ballerinas. I don't know if there's another pseudo name or surname for it. I know that over the years, actors and actresses, now they just prefer to be called actors. That's it. Just non-gender, just an actor. So I don't know if that's the same for ballet dancers, if they prefer to be called a ballerina or just a ballet dancer or just a dancer. So that then led to the question that my coworker presented, and it is a friend's daughter who wants to be a boy. Now, my wife and I, we had this discussion last night prior to me coming on here to express my feelings about this, but I have no skin in the game. It doesn't matter to me. If my daughter one day tells me that she wants to be a boy, fine. You want to dress like a boy? Dress like a boy. You want me to call you son? We'll call you son. You want, like, all the list goes on. But now, as I mentioned before, I do have a line. And that line comes in the form of medical interventions or medical treatments. I'm fully on board with all of the things up to maybe hormone therapy. And the only reason that I say that, and I know that there are individuals who sort of got caught in the red seat or the hot seat by expressing this. Mario Lopez, for example, expressing how there are parents in Hollywood who are full bore giving their kids either it's estrogen or giving their daughters testosterone. And the only reason that I say that I'm against that is because I don't know the science and the effects that this might have on a child to be taking this stuff. There's not enough science or there's not enough research done in order for me to feel confident that, yeah, that sounds like the right thing to do. And I don't want my children to be test subjects for anything. I don't want them to be the case study. If this is what they want to do, much like certain laws and certain things, we'll just say like certain laws, we kind of go based off, well, how did a case go before? What were the results of this trial? And how similar is it to this new trial? And the same thing goes for this. For me, at least, it's, well, we don't allow kids to purchase cigarettes until they're 18. So maybe 18 would be a good age for them to then think about if in fact they want to go that route and start taking testosterone or taking estrogen or doing any of that stuff. But then we also don't allow young adults to drink until the age of 21. So then what age is the appropriate age for like hormone therapy? I think that when they're an adult, they can make whatever decision that they want to make. However, while they are my children and while I am raising them, though I will be 100% supportive of whatever, I can't say like whatever, but like if they want to say a tattoo, well, that's not going to happen either. I'm on board with tattoos. I think tattoos are fine. I don't have any tattoos myself, but there's an age restriction for tattoos. Just like I might be fine with my kids drinking. I don't drink, but there's an age for drinking. I'll be fine if my children want to take hormones, but we don't have an age for that. So when am I comfortable with them doing it then? I think I'm comfortable with them doing something like that. And this is all hypothetical because my kids are so young. I mean, some parents say that they start showing signs or whatever the case may be. My children have not. So I don't even know if I'll have to even approach this or cross this bridge or reach this fork in the road in my life with my children. But I would like it to at least be known that if in fact they did, that I wouldn't want them to fear or live in fear of having to tell me and what my thoughts might be. I would want them to know that whatever decision it is that they're making about themselves and their lives, that I am supportive and that I can try my best to help them navigate this world that they want to, or this road that they want to embark upon, that they don't have to do it alone. There are a lot of stories of children who take their lives because of feeling indifferent. There are a lot of stories of kids who are just being like bullied and picked on in the most extreme ways, the most wild and radical ways by strangers, by people who don't even know them. And I don't want my children to ever have to face that kind of life alone. So being open to the idea lets them know that from day one, they've had me on their side with whatever it is that they're doing. But it comes at the cost of, there are limits to my support. And I mean, not to sound insensitive or I would just chalk it up to the fact that maybe I'm uneducated on the matter and I should educate myself more. But I'm also not going to educate myself on something that may never come to be. I'm not an LGBTQ plus activist. I don't go out to any maybe marches or anything like that. I don't think that I have anybody in my inner circle who is of that lifestyle, though I would not be like shunning of someone who is. It's just that I don't have anybody that's that close. That's like, all right, let's rally on this, or let me educate myself a little bit more on this. I feel like my circle is very small and it's very like plain. It's not super diverse, if that makes sense. So I'm not educating myself on everything. Not educating myself on say Black history or the history of the LGBTQ community, even my own culture and Mexican and Filipino history. I'm not super educated on either. But if it's something to do with my children and how to be a better parent and how to speak to them, I'm all on board for that stuff. My wife, she sends me links to how to talk to our kids, or body language and things like that, and what that expresses to them. But to kind of, I guess, bring it back to, things like not gene therapy, but hormone therapy. I don't want my kids to be test subjects for it. I think that there are a lot of parents out there who want to do it, who want to support their children at a very young age, maybe at 6 years old, maybe younger, and go ahead and give them hormones because that's what their kids feel within themselves that they are and that they truly want to be. But I don't know what that's going to do. I don't know what that's going to do to a still developing person. And then I also don't know if it's like, well, if you did it at 18 or you did it at 8, I mean, does it make a big difference? In the sense that if you had jumped on it sooner, would you have had a better end result? Or does it matter if you wait till you're older? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that one. I'd be curious if anybody who is doing maybe hormone therapy, if in fact, that if you did it at 8 years old, you would be in a different place than if you had done it when you were 18. Or if there's somebody who's doing it much older and then you're taking this stuff and it's like, well, it's just maybe not as effective because your body's already gone through the change of puberty. So maybe beating that puberty starting phase is like the goal or what you want to do. To that, I don't know the answer. But I do know that if my children do decide that that's the path that they want to embark upon, it is something that is very scary. There's a lot of things that when you become a parent keep you up at night, that make you lose sleep. There's clearly the usual suspects, breaking and entering, kidnapping, stuff like that. That all, like, totally, you'll lose sleep just watching movies about stuff like that. But the other thing is bullying. If your kids are being bullied in school, in life, just in any of those realms or arenas, because you can't fight those fights for them. They're the ones that have to go to school. They're the ones that have to put up with that. And all you can do is your best. You can try to homeschool them if it gets too bad. Hopefully you have the time or the resources or the ability to do something like that. But if you don't, then they just have to be there at school. And then the best you can do is try to make the most of the time that you have while you're at the dinner table before they go to bed. Encourage them and talk to them and try to be that light in that world that they feel is so dark. Because there are a lot of individuals out there with just a lot of inbred and ingrained hate within them. Hate for things either they don't understand, hate for things they were raised to hate. I circle back to when my son asked me if boys can be ballerinas. I could have very well put a stamp in his book and said no. And then whatever homophobic slur you want to enter in there. And you're not to be like that. Whatever. It could have went really sideways really quick. And then what? Maybe there is some kid at his school that wants to start dancing like a ballerina, some other boy. I don't know. And then whatever homophobic feelings, thoughts, or information that I then downloaded into my son's mind are going to come spewing out of his mouth because that's what he was raised to think, or that's how he was raised to believe. And what a shame that is. I think what a shame that is to, if you want to hate something, I think that you're well entitled to hate it. But I think that you should develop that hate on your own. It's a shame to be raised to hate something and not know why. I don't know if, again, parenting is such a wild thing. It may be the right thing to just download who you hate, what foods you like, what religion you're going to be. The list goes on. But I was raised in a household where my brother and I, we were given every opportunity to decide what it is that we wanted out of this life. I mean, we could have very well picked to be a different religion if we wanted to, and it would come with probably very little to no opposition from our parents. It would have just been like, well, that's cool. Go do that. I mean, not to change the subject too much, but even there was a Reddit post that another coworker of mine had shared, and it was that it was religion based, and it was saying how God is such an amazing creator that no matter where you're born on this planet, your religion is the right one. And when I sat back and I really thought about it, it's like, yeah, everybody feels that they got it right. And they feel it in their bones. And not to speak ill of people who are religious, but if you're Christian, do you think that the Muslim faith is right? Because however you feel about that, the Muslim faith feels the same way. Maybe even within the different, I guess, branches of Christianity, they all feel like they've got it right. And they might look at each other in opposition. I know that Mormons are Christian, but not all Christians think that the Mormons have it right. And so how can I then, when you take something like that, how can I then say that I would have it right if I were to download thoughts of hate and indifference into my children who don't know any of that yet? They need to develop that on their own. If they grow up to be homophobic, then that's what they're going to grow up to be. But I will have had no input on that. And hopefully I can guide them in the right direction, or what I feel is a positive direction, in treating people with respect, treating people the way you would like to be treated. That there are going to be people in this life who have different faiths, different sexual orientations, different thoughts, different political, maybe, aspirations or allegiances, a different language, even different skin color. But what we all boil down to is we're all human beings, and we're all people, whether we're male, female, or the plus, whatever the plus is. No disrespect. I really don't know what the plus is. And that's pretty much it. It's come up on Reddit. We've been talking about it at work. My wife said that the trans community or the trans movement is maybe the gay and lesbian movement for our generation. That previous generations had to experience or witness the gay and the lesbian community really trying to take a stand and be recognized. And now it's the trans and the Q and the plus, T, the Q, and the plus, and maybe the B community that is doing it now. And it's met with a lot of opposition. And I hope that opposition isn't coming from me, isn't coming from my children. I hope that respect and understanding comes from myself and comes from them. And that's all that I really can do as a parent and as a father, is to try to just do my best and hope that I raise my children to be good people. So with that said, I want to thank you guys. I want to thank those of you who stayed on. I know that I opened with it a little different than where we ended it, but I think that at the end, if you don't agree with what I say, that's fine. You're not supposed to. You don't have to. There's nothing that says that what I'm saying is right. If you made it to the end and you still disagree, that's fine too. I mean, I'm not here to change your mind. I'm not here to tell you how to feel or how to think. That this is me and mine. This is me and my family. But if something resonated with you, then that's great. If you were on the fence about how you felt about how you should approach this, maybe with your children, and it gives you another option or another outlet or a fresh set of eyes on the matter, that's awesome too. I mean, all we can do is our best. And even if you take the opposite approach of me and you feel that that's your best, then hey, that's your best. So with that said, again, thank you guys for taking the time to listen. And until next time, see ya.